Hello and welcome. This is Pastor Deborah, Agape Love, Love is Here Ministry. And this is the introduction to the webcams, to all the videos. And I wanted to introduce you to me before you got started. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what the webcam series are going to be about. I wanted to let you know that the first series is going to be a rediscovery series. And as we travel through and we learn and grow, there'll be more and more series of rediscovery. I want to let you know that I'm in a battle. I have been highly trained and educated, and I am coming to you as a partner and an ally of the most highest and mightiest general there ever is, Agape Love. I like to use the analogy that in World War II, in order to set millions and millions and millions of people free, an entire continent, nations, and resources, and the next generations and the next generations. It took allies and partners from many, many nations, highly trained in many different areas, all coming together for one purpose: to set people free. Free people cannot stand the thought of other humans and humanity being in bondage and slavery and can't get free. So I serve under a general, Agape Love, Love is Here. Agape Love is the most powerful general there ever is. It will take you beyond all borders, through every nation. It doesn't need any papers. It travels in a world that most people don't understand nor see. I am sort of a resistance fighter, an underground fighter, but I'm also out in the open, a teacher. And these videos on webcam are going to be teaching lessons. There'll be many different series that will come along to help you. And I hope that you enjoy them and that you get to know me and you get to know yourself and you get to know others. So enjoy the webcam videos. Some of them have different lengths, but the main goal of each one is to bring hope and encouragement to you, the person that you have not yet met, the person that has been hidden from most of yourself, but not from others, and to help you discover that there is more to you than you know. And because I am a trained fighter and I work very closely with Agape Love, we're going to be doing setting some things free. If you've ever watched any of the World War II stories and how Europe was invaded, some of the countries invited the people in. Some people welcomed. Other people did not have a choice. And yet they all ended up in the same place, bondage, to something that was more powerful, more vicious, and tormenting, and vexing. So here we are. Since humanity began, we have had problems in our hearts and our minds, feelings and our emotions. And boy, we have tried to figure it out. And there's a good article, a video that you can watch called Equal Partners, because a lot of us don't understand what is going on with us. Why do all the problems that we all want to solve and live in peace and harmony and have a wonderful life, why can we not solve them? There are so many smart and intelligent people all over the world in every nation, going to school, learning, trying everything they know how to help humanity. Their hearts are so wonderful that they love and they don't like to see anybody hurting and vexed and tormented. And they're trying with every ounce of knowledge they have to figure it out. And there's resistance fighters such as me that we know you have to have something stronger than what we know. Throughout history, most of humanity believed in a connection to a higher power. And that higher power was a loving higher power. And it wanted to help us. And it wanted to touch us and caress us and be a part of our lives. Well, somehow things got messed up. And we no longer really invite a higher power into our lives to help us. And we have turned mainly to other ways, which is working some. We are getting some results. But this enemy that's unseen, that continues through thousands and thousands of generations, doesn't seem to end. The war is never solved. There's little breaks every now and then, but it goes on. Everybody's asking the question, how do I stop it? How do we end this unseen war that attacks us, that attacks our children and our loved ones? How can we find peace? How can we get along with each other? And yet there's no answers. Humanity seems to be trapped in bondage and slavery to unseen enemies that it cannot see or hear, doesn't believe in. So it has no answers. And we all put along trying to figure it out. We're trying so hard. Every nation is trying. Every educated person, every mama, every father, everybody. We even got dogs and animals trying to help us and love us and support us. All of our spiritual leaders are trying to help us. We're all trying to be free, and we're trying to get somewhere, but we don't know where, and we don't know how to get there. So I'm here through these videos to help you. I am a special person. As I said, I'm a resistance fighter. I go undercover. I travel in that unseen world, unseen realm. I also travel in the natural realm. And I live in a home. And I do a lot of other things. But I am a soldier in a war as an ally, desiring that many others come along with Agape Love to help set people free in every nation from an unseen invader that has set up, entrenched itself, embedded, entombed itself in our lives, whether it's in our spirit, our soul, or our physical body. And it rules us and reigns us and torments us into deep slavery and bondage. And we don't know how to get free. So hopefully these webcams will begin to give you hope that there is freedom and to rediscover ways that have been long forgotten so that we can come together as allies and partners in a world war that crosses every nation, every boundary, and we can defeat this enemy that has tormented humanity since its beginning. And we will learn how to fight back, how to resist. We'll know it when it shows up, and we know what its goals are. So enjoy all the webcams. I hope to get better at this. This is kind of new to me. I'll still keep making the videos, and if you want to email me or contact me, you are welcome to. My email address is Pastor Deborah, Deborah, at agapeloveishere.org. You may link to me on LinkedIn at Pastor Deborah, Love is Here. There are some videos on there. Also, I'm on Twitter under Pastor Deborah, Love is Here. I also have a YouTube channel called Hidden Kingdoms. There's a lot of videos there. I'm also on 4 different podcast platforms. I think it's iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and Intune. So if you have an Alexa or something, you can ask for Pastor Deborah. There are some audios you can listen to. And also I have the website www.agapeloveishere.org. I'm already currently in partnership with people in Nepal and Kenya, the Philippines, and here in America. And if you wish to call me on the phone, text me. Now, I do not have a smartphone, so I'm not up there yet. at 1-850-501-5040. That is Central Time in the United States of America, Pensacola, Florida, which happens to be about 3 hours east of New Orleans. Beautiful beaches, kind of hot right now. But been here a long time, and I am learning how to do this webcam stuff. So hopefully I'll get better, and I will be able to teach better for you. So enjoy each video, and please feel free to email me with questions. I'll get back to you. We got a war to win and people to set free. You are invited to become an ally, a highly trained soldier, and a partner with the mightiest general there ever is, Agape Love, and help set people free. Love always and forever, Pastor Deborah. Hello, Pastor Deborah here, and welcome once again to the King and the Kingdom series. We are currently in the garden where I'm the shepherd of, even though when you see me, physically I'll be in my living room. But spiritually, we are somewhere else. This is one more episode of the King and the Kingdom series. And we've been talking a lot about the Word. It's very important that we have good foundational understanding of the Word, so how it relates to us, how it desires to be the king and rule this kingdom of spirit, soul, and physical body. We have lots of teachings on it. This one is entitled, How is a Word Created? You know me, I got 3 points. 1, what source? Where do they come from? 2, what do they do? And 3, how are they stored, and where and why? Words are powerful. We all communicate. We all have nonverbal communication with our body, our hands. We speak with our mouth. A mama can communicate with her eyes and her eyebrows. We communicate in pictures, art. Nature is communicating to us. We write poems, songs, music. The sun is communicating to us. The atoms and the neutrons communicating. The earth and nature, they have a voice. But how is a word created? Does it have a source that they come from? And if they do, how does that source create a word, a picture, a communication, a symbol? How is it done? Anybody know? Well, we got a lot of learning to do. We'll have to talk about the word in many different realms. What? Oh, there's all sorts of ways. Different realms require different mechanisms and different way the word comes from, the source, and how it's created. Let's start with something we all know. We all have 5 senses. They all communicate to the natural world. They all tell inside brain if the world is safe. Does that food taste good? Is there any enemy near? Is something beautiful through my eyes? Now let's say I look at a flower. My eyes look sees a flower. Now what? What happens to that image of the flower through my eyes? Are my eyes just a lens of a camera taking a picture? Do they just become digital electrical chemicals up here? Is it just a picture? If it is, what do the pictures do? How are they stored up here? This picture, this word that my eyes saw. Where are they stored up here? And why? This is just the biological part of us. I see a flower, I take it in, goes to my biological brain. Now what? To help you out, we're going to look at a movie. Neo. Here is this biological body hooked up to a machine in a power plant. There's all kinds of stuff coming in. And he's being fed a computer program of images and pictures and sounds to his brain, to his biological brain. And his biological brain is receiving the signals that's being sent into it. Now his eyes are not opened. His 5 senses are not working. In the occult world, in multi-generation, you would call him in the tank. He's in a sensory deprivation solution. He has no concept of that there's walls. His eyes are not open. His ears are not hearing. He's in a sensory deprivation tank. And in that place, the biological brain is trying to make sense of things that are being fed into his brain through this computer system called the Matrix that he knows nothing about. So that world that he lives in, he's sort of living in 2 worlds. He's living in a world of sensory deprivation. He's in that kind of gooey stuff in the power plant. Now, he does not know that. He's never walked. He's never used his mouth, his vocal cords. He's sort of like in the womb when a baby's in there being developed. But his senses, his 5 senses, are not activated. They're in deprivation. We find what happens when you get in that the biological brain becomes deficient. One of the great stories to see that was Helen Keller, with Patty Duke Austin as Helen Keller, and Anne Bancroft as Annie, her teacher. When she became deaf and blind, her senses could no longer bring in information to her brain. Her brain became stunted. It lived in darkness. Didn't know what was anything, didn't know anything. So when your 5 senses are distorted, blocked off in deprivation, we have a problem. Now in Neo's case, these machines were hooked up to the back of his neck, right back there in the back, feeding the brain stimuli. I don't know what it was, if it was light, computer images, zeros and ones. It was feeding it and telling the biological brain of Neo what his life was, what he did. His brain was believing that he was in a real world. But he was in his 5 senses, his real ones were in sensory deprivation. But yet information was coming in. So a word, if I look at a picture, and this is what Neo learns later when he goes into a construct program from Morpheus. He says, you see that chair? Neil touches it. Yeah, I see the chair. It's not real, Neil. And Neil goes, what do you mean? I can see it. I can touch it. He says, it's a computer-generated program. It's going into your biological brain that tells your brain through signals, electrical stuff, it's real. And your brain believes it's real. And he goes, that chair's not real. And then Morpheus says, what's real? If what you believe is real, I'm looking at the flower now with my biological eyes, and I believe that's a real flower. But in here, that picture gets changed to electrical, chemical, digital. I don't have flowers in my brain. Don't have a chair. It changes form, and it's stored somewhere in memory as a picture, a digital picture. Well, what's that? How can a word be created? In here. Who's having thoughts? What part of you is speaking? What is a word? Is it a form of communication? Is it an expression of something? Is it you interacting with something? Is a word descriptive, telling you something about something? Is a word describing an action? Is a word made of? What is it made of? The reason I ask you all these questions is we get on into more deeper levels. Words are vital. We hear it from people all the time. They're talking to us. They're on social media. They're in books. They're in movies. They're on the phone. Dogs bark. Is that a word? Cats meow. Is that a word? What is a word? How is it created? Is it just a sound? A grunt? Where does it come from inside of here? What part of me creates words and pictures? What part of an animal creates the reason to bark? How is a word created in us? Is it created in the biological brain, chemical, electrical? Is it created in our conscious awareness? Are the five senses involved? Is this created in our subconscious? That guy down there, you know, that's way down here. How do they create words? Why would we need words? What do words bring us? How are they created? If I look at a flower, but I don't know it's a flower. Somebody told me it was a teddy bear. Okay, you call that thing a teddy bear. But somebody else calls it a flower. Now I have a problem. We have two different words describing the same thing. You have a word saying that's a flower. And somebody else says, oh no, 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 no. That's a teddy bear. Now what goes on up here? Confusion. Who do you believe? Which one is the truth? Why would somebody tell me a flower is a teddy bear? Is that what they believe it is? Is that the name they were told? How is that word created, though? Does it come from family? Does it come from our culture? Does it come from our faith-based areas?
What in this system of biological brain, the hidden man, the hidden person, the subconscious, and the forever spirit, how do these three parts create a word? How do they express themselves? Is it just through words? Just through communication? How? If I wink at you, is that a word? Am I talking to you? Can I talk to you with my hands? Are they words? Am I speaking a non-verbal communication to you? In Braille, they talk through dots. That we communicate. It's not just through dots, Braille, but when you're deaf and dumb, you can also use the hand, and you learn that the hand gestures represent letters that represent words. Also, if you are deaf, they do sign language that you can see as long as you're not blind. So how is a word created? Got any ideas? Is it created in your soul? Is it created when somebody talks to you? Well, where do they create it? Is it created in some unknown chemical reaction in your biological brain? Is it just a mixture of zinc and magnesium and dopamine and serotonin and water? Is it just an electrical connection? Is that what a word is? The reason I ask you all these questions is that in order to grow spiritually and understand yourself, how you present yourself, how you communicate, how you grow, how you develop, how you are shaped and formed, words are a part of that. And when you are in relationships to people, words are a part of that. So you can't even understand yourself, other people, and the world until you understand how is a word created, the power behind it, the purpose of a word, its desires to rule and reign a system. But right now we're just talking, how is a word created? What is the very beginning, the very source of a word? These are deep questions. I'm just going to kind of leave them out there for you so you can think. Maybe do some research. Okay? Point one. What source? Are there different sources for words? What happened if you got a word that sounded icky, hateful, bullying, unkind, unloving? Where's the source of that? Is the word a fruit of something? Is there something inside a human that is producing those hateful, bullying, evil words? Is that source a person? Is it memories? Is it its shaping and conforming from its culture? Maybe when it went into a faith-based building and the leader up there is talking hateful. Does it come from books? Books are words. Books have pictures, they're words. Where does that word, that source of that hateful, unloving, unrighteous, inconsiderate word come from? What part in a human is it coming from? 2, what do they do? What do these words do? Do they have a purpose when somebody speaks them? What is the purpose to the person who is speaking, reading, who has written, maybe a songwriter has written a song, words. Inside that songwriter, why do they have to put some words in a song? What is the purpose inside of them for writing the song? Then what is the purpose of those words? Do they do something to the person they came out of? Do they release something? Do they speak about something? Are they trying to communicate something from the person who wrote the song? And then are they trying to tell somebody else something about this person here? Are they expressing feelings, thoughts, pain, joy, love, pleasure? Are words a vehicle of expression, communication? What do they tell us? Do they tell us stories? Do they tell us truths or lies? What do they do? Are they all the same when they come in? If I read a word and I hear the same word, do the same biological things go on inside my brain? Excuse me, sinuses this morning. It was a long night. But I have some relief because I got a mighty king now doing battle for me. He ain't going to tolerate this stuff anymore. So, he is at work. What do they do, these words? What are their purpose? What is their source inside a person? These are all deep questions. Because in the King and the Kingdom series, it's all about word. And in that series, you're going to learn later that a word came from out of the known earthly planet, came into the planet, took on the form of a human, and this word was sent to heal humanity, to set captives free, to bring back something to humanity, to renew humanity in some ancient words. A word was sent. But until you have an understanding of what a word is, you cannot understand that from a spiritual kingdom precept and concept. So what do words do? How are they related? Are there good words? Good forces behind words? Could there be some bad words with negative, evil forces behind them? Gotta ask these questions. Point 3. Oh, excuse me. I'm standing in your way. How are they stored? When a word comes to me in any form, a picture, a song, music, a book, a movie, coming in through my five senses. How does my biological body store them? Is it just electrical chemical? Is that all that's up here? Electrical chemical. How are they stored in there? Is it digital? Is it by light rays? Is it in chemicals? Is it in protons, neurons? Is it in hormones? What are the storage areas for the words? And I ask all these because we have these systems within us. We have a biological system that is working, hopefully. And we have a subconscious system that Freud believed in. But there was a hidden man, a person down here. It was a full person, shaped, formed, and conformed by the world. But he lived in darkness, which means ignorance. But all his senses were coming into it, teaching it. And then in spiritual work, we believe there's another part of you, a forever person, the spiritual part of you that's inside this dirt body, that's also affected by word. It lives in a different realm, but there's still words in that realm. It still has senses in that realm. And for a long time, it is just completely one with the subconscious mind. And whatever the subconscious mind receives, it is passed through to the spirit, to the forever person. Now, the subconscious part can't really receive the spiritual stuff because it's kind of foolish to him. But these two parts of us are both receiving words. They're both storing words. They're both creating words. Words are being spoken to them. They are speaking out words. They are storing words. Words are shaping them. They are forming them. They're either developing concepts, precepts, ideologies, ideas, philosophies from words. From other people. A lot of people don't realize that a lot of our dead humans, will go back to both the Romans and the Greeks. They're still ruling our lives and our thoughts, our governments, based on what they thought was truth. And they have formed governments. We live by their rules, their concepts, their precepts, and they still guide us. Even though those people who spoke or thought those words are dead. Their ideas go on. Their philosophies, their concepts. So what do words do? They form concepts. Con means one. Accept means thought. So you get one thought. You might call it, we're all going to be in unity. We're all going to speak the same thing. We're all going to believe the same thing. What everybody says is the same thing. You hear it a lot among the world. Confucius over in China, he believed in unity. That we were all one. We should all dress the same, talk the same. There's no difference. Sort of a light form, a form of socialism. We're all the same. We're all to live the same. Nobody's any better, but somebody has to rule this socialist government. So somehow some people, this is what the Greeks believed, always were up to be up here. They were the leaders, the dominators. They were the ones who had the special privilege. And they would rule all these people down here who had to be in unity. But the ones that were above, they didn't live like the ones below. They lived differently. So words from ancient cultures, ancient philosophers are still with us, passed on through generations, passed on through movies, through school books, through history, through family culture, through our religions, through our faith-based groups. So what do? They continue to shape us, conform us, guide us and direct us, teach us, lead us, still forming governments, guiding the government's words. How are they stored? Books, movies, ancient manuscripts. But more important than that, they're taught in our schools. They're taught in our families. They're taught in our culture. They're taught in our religions. They're taught through our family. Somebody brings in a concept, a word, they teach us when we're young, and we learn. We're shaped, we're molded, we're formed, we conform by words. And where are they stored? We have now something called the cloud, where you can shoot up videos and audio. And it's stored somewhere in machines. It's stored in the netherworld. So words are stored somewhere, one in here in our memory, but they're stored in everybody's memory. Everybody seems to have a cloud in us, but we store things. We could be storing them outside of us. Maybe like when I do a YouTube video, my website doesn't have enough space to store all the video. So I shoot it to YouTube, and it's housed there. But when I want to bring it back down, I bring the URL link and put it on my website. But the big video is stored somewhere else. Could that be where words are stored? Somewhere else outside of us? Are they stored in all the other people? Do we have that kind of capacity in us, in our soul and in our forever person, to store all of that? Now, we do see some problems with storage, memory, when somebody gets a biological disease, excuse me, called Alzheimer's or dementia. Somehow, something is causing their memory to evaporate. They'll keep their long-term memory. You've heard about long-term memory and short-term memory. That's all in the biological brain. Well, does our guy down here, our subconscious, does he have the same kind of short-term and long-term memory? What about our forever person? Does he have a short-term and a long-term memory? How does our forever person store this? Sometimes we learn a lot about storage by computers. We learn a lot where you have to have some big housing, some big unit. On your laptops, the motherboard has to have more storage to contain pictures and videos and games and songs. And then it can get corrupted, as we know, and you can lose it, and it can get viruses, and it can get infected. So where are our memories and the words stored with us? Probably many different places. And spiritually, probably the same. Why are they stored? Why do we have to store images and sounds and have memory. What's the purpose of the word pictures in our memory? Why do we need long-term memory? What is it? Is it just a collection of words and pictures that come in? Is it beliefs and concepts? Do the words form all that? What happens if I'm speaking to you? You are deciding some part of you, so whether you want to continue to listen to it. There's something there that draws you, that you want to listen. Then it might come in your biological ears or your spiritual ears if you're in the spirit with me. It might start causing a war inside. I'll tell you a story that I get used to. Have it happen a lot. Is it deals with scrambling the word. When I'm speaking to you, I'm expressing something out of me. Usually when I teach, it's out of my spirit. It's coming up from my spirit, or down rather, down through the subconscious and out through the conscious. Now, what happens is if I'm speaking spiritual truth from the kingdom of heaven that is not of this world, then there will be a demonic, a scrambler between my coming out of my mouth and your ears. And how it worked, and I learned about this, was I was working with a multi-generational Satanist, a young girl, about 15 years old. And she was a witch, and she was being groomed to be a high priestess in her clan, which is, I think it was called the Black Forest clan out of Germany, which we had to take care of that thing, and that one doesn't exist anymore. And her family sat on this Council of International Brotherhood, which was a deep, deep secret society dealing with the whole world. They were in the third place, trying to move up to the first place. This young girl, which when I met her, she was to be a mother, she was a breeder, to bring forth the false prophet that has been predicted to come, which was equal to John the Baptist, who was the cousin of this guy that came named Christ Jesus. So her family, through many thousands, if not millions of years of properly breeding and inbreeding and incest and stuff, she had the proper spiritual genes and biological connections all the way back to John the Baptist. And her family sat in that position that one day one of her kids would bring forth this false prophet that would help the, quote, Antichrist to rule the world for a little while. Now, I didn't know that about her. I had no clue, but I'm talking to her outside of a church, and I'm explaining some things. Very simple. And somehow I knew to say to her, repeat back to me what I just said. And she did, but it wasn't what I said. I said, that's not the word I used. That is not what I said. And she said, but that's what I heard from your words. And I realized between me and her, there was a demonic scrambler. So she could say, yes, I heard your words. But on the inside of her, she didn't hear what I said, so she doesn't get the correct interpretation, understanding, knowledge and truth. Something scrambled it between me and her. Was it between me and her physically? Could have been. Was it inside of her? So when my words went into her ears, it scrambled? Could have been. Was it inside her spirit? Could have been. But I realized right then and there that I always needed to have people repeat back to me what I said. Had another lady, she was a wonderful, wonderful lady, don't work with her anymore. And she was mainly in the flesh a lot. I would say something, and I'd say, "What did I just say?" And she would repeat it back, but it wasn't what I said. And I said, "That's not what I said." And she said, "Well, this is what I heard." Because she was filtering it through her experiences, her deeply subconscious man, and it got all scrambled. So a lot of times when people are receiving words, receiving pictures, receiving sounds, what was intended to go out doesn't necessarily mean that it's received that way. So how is a word created? It's created inside of us somewhere. We have two levels of words. We have words that come out of my biological mouth, which can be from my biological brain and that subconscious guy, or it can be coming from my spirit that's deep inside through the subconscious and on out through my biological body. When I go and work with the Homeless Coalition, it's at a Christian ministry here in Pensacola, I tell them, I am an alien. What you're listening to out of my mouth is my spirit. It is not my soul that has been shaped and conformed. That guy died on a cross, I tell them. You're listening to my spirit, who is from another planet, another kingdom. It's an off-planet alien compared to everybody else. I don't talk the same language that they have. I don't have the same interpretation. I don't have the same memories that they have. In fact, maybe on the next tape I'll get into the birth and the death of the word and how it really shapes and forms you, and how when that shaping and forming to the human in the womb, it's not very nice. And we see you don't have to teach a baby to be bullying, to be mean, to say no. Somehow it has both love and that stuff in it at the same time. Nobody teaches a little baby that. It can get more and more developed based on his experiences. But how is a word created? It comes from a heart, a mind. It's a deep thought based on experiences, deep inner beliefs, concepts, ideas, experiences. And when the word comes out of us, we are expressing ourselves, we are explaining, we are trying to help people, we are responding with emotions. There's always emotions attached to it and feelings. You can hear it when somebody sighs. You can see it in their eyes if they're angry. You can hear it in the tone of the voice, the loudness, the softness. You can see a little sparkle in somebody's eyes that's full of joy. You can see depression and hopelessness. That subconscious guy is always communicating. He's always talking to us. through words. Emotions are words. So there's a deep understanding that we must get with our biological system and how it receives the word, pictures, images, thoughts, ideas, and how that shapes the mind and the heart and the feelings, the memory of the deep subconscious man. And then at the same time, because him and the forever person are one, the forever person is pretty much exactly the same personality, attitude, has the same concepts that this soul has. But the forever person also lives in in a realm where the soul does not live, the unseen realm, where there's a lot of creatures and they do a lot of talking. So it's real important to begin thinking about how you are shaped and formed by words, how you express yourself by words, how you learn and grow by words, how you store words in the biological brain, how words affect and come into your subconscious, how the spiritual world has words, the power of those words. Every living thing, even every dead thing, talks, has words, is communicating. Where are they stored? In a cloud somewhere? Are they laid dormant in here? What happens when we start losing words? We have a stroke or a brain aneurysm, and you're lost for words. What's happened in the brain that this connection doesn't work anymore? What happens if you drink a lot of alcohol, do a lot of drugs? It does damage to your brain. It doesn't function. We lose memory. How come some memories from childhood stay with us forever and others we don't remember? How come some of the memory, maybe of your kindergarten class, you got bits and pieces of it, but not the other? We always hear stories that when we go to sleep at night, our brain has to do a lot of filing. Look at a memory, look at experience, put it in a file folder, put it in a filing cabinet. Some are thrown away in a trash can. We don't need that lot of stuff going on. Is that happening? I don't know. I'm asleep. Is that going on inside of my biological brain? Could be. My heart's still beating. My eyes are blinking. I'm in some kind of my conscious awareness. And probably my subconscious are in a deep resting from the day. But my spirit's not. Unless it happens to be asleep, in a trance, drugged out, then it too will be asleep. And but words come to us in picture forms, songs. When I smell something, a picture comes. A word, flower, a grape. So word. How's the word created? It is our spoken, written, sung. It is our thought that explains something, an image or a likeness. We give it an identity, we give it nature, we give it an essence. In the Bible, you'll learn that when you name something, you give it a name, you put a word to it, you are actually giving that thing its nature, its essence, its character, its purpose, its relationship to you. So the name, which is a word, is very important. We've also heard about how words can bring curses to your life. Some people talk about how witches will curse people. And they'll do spells and they'll say words and put curses on people, their enemies. Some witch doctors do that. They'll kill a chicken or something. They'll take a pin, stab it in a doll, because they're trying to hurt somebody through supernatural spiritual means that are probably not the good guys. So, words are important. Words are containers. Words bring life to us. They bring blessings, hope, encouragement. Or they can bring hopelessness and death. And words can travel generations. The words of the Greeks, demokrata, democracy. That comes from the Greek philosophers. Okay? They can travel. Words can travel generations. Words never really die. They're containers of good things, bad things. Words come in pictures, songs, music. They're talking to us. They're communicating to us. Okay? So word, how is a word created? That one is from deep inside everything. It has a voice. And its purpose is to communicate itself. Communicate out through words. Everything is communicating its purpose that it has. It has a voice, and it's trying to communicate. Now, we may not think that a cat's meow or a dog's bark or a bird's chirp is a word, but it is. It's the same thing as looking at a rose. A rose is talking to me. I can hear it talking. Pine cones talk. I have a great story about pine cones. When I walk, I'll be walking on the street and I'll see a broken, cut up, dead pine cone on the road. And I'll say to it, "Pine cone, what are you doing out here?" And it will talk back to me. Because nature has a voice. And the pine cone will say, "I'm so sorry, Your Majesty. But some wind and rain came and knocked me out of the dirt and blew me over here on the street, and I can't get back. I don't have any arms or legs to get up. I need somebody to help me put me back where I belong." I go, "Okay, that's my job." So I pick up the brown pine cone and throw him back in the woods. And I say to him, "Now you go and be what you're supposed to be. Drop your seeds, grow a pine tree." And what I had to learn was that nature out here is a replica of the spiritual, eternal world. And that brown pine cone represented a golden pine cone. I have one of them at the T&W flea market. But here in the earthly world, because death is in every living thing, it's here. It's in every living thing. And death is a big and powerful king, and it rules. And it will kill every flesh. And so this brown pine cone was a representative image of the real one. And yet it was talking to me. A lot of people will call them dog whisperers. They're talking to animals. The word from one is going to the other. How? Spiritually. We have people inside. If you're a multi-person with multiple personalities due to trauma or experiences, abuse, you have a lot of conversations, a lot of people on the inside of you, and they all have voices and they all talk. And they're all individuals, and they're speaking. We did an experiment when I went through the National Alliance for Mentally Ill. so that a non-mentally ill person would understand what it feels like to hear voices. I think Anderson Cooper went through this also. You put on a headset, he did, and he had voices talking to him. And he's trying to go about his day doing regular business and work, and he's constantly hearing voices, words, 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 voices, words, words, good ones, bad ones, inside, but nobody else could hear it. And he explained how difficult it was to concentrate. So we did the same thing in this training, in this education. We would stand behind a person and sort of whisper to them while they're trying to have a conversation with somebody else. So words, they're inside of us. Sometimes there's a lot of people inside of us. And if you get off into the spiritual realm, you may have a lot of them things in there too. And how does the higher powers talk to us? Words. Inside here. Dreams. Words. Word is very important. How can a word heal you? How can a word bring hope to hopelessness? How can a word push death back? What is the power of words? Are they stored somewhere until we need them? What's their purpose? So I wanted to bring up this my job is to bring you to think, ponder. So you'll go and do research. You'll go and look up things. You'll study on your own to get your answers, your questions answered. Because in the King and the Kingdom series, the word is important. A word was sent to planet Earth to help us. We were in this darkness, this ignorance of truth. We had lost these words from ancient days. We had no connection to the source, to the memories of these words that they were trying to tell us. So the world came in, and so did the spiritual world, covered us, filled us up with other words, other concepts, other ideas, other thoughts, other beliefs, other philosophies. And it shaped us and formed us. And we have been away from a word from this eternal realm of agape love for so long that we are a mess. And when this word comes, it starts a war inside of here. And it ain't pretty. You see it in the movie with Neo in the Matrix. When he starts realizing the truth that he was born into slavery, born to be put in the power plant, just a slave, for what his body produced, energy. A lot of women, hey, and kids, you can produce an orgasm by being a sexual slave. You're born into it. That's your job. And when he started realizing that his whole world was a computer-generated dream world, and it was not real, it made him puke. And when you get to that point, that what these words have told you throughout ancient history, like Democrata, that is not the kind of government that you're to have. That's not the kind of government you came from. That is not the kind of government you're to have inside of your system. Those were from dead, spiritually dead, unconnected spirits to their ancient homeland called the Kingdom of Heaven. But they came up with some ideas how to run a government. And it was different. They were trying to get away from being a king, because that's another whole story where most humans don't want a king over them. They don't like it because most of the kings were bad. So they had to find some kind of government, so they decided, for the people, by the people, we'll elect you with black stones or white stones, and we'll call it democrata, democracy. Well, some countries decided communism would be better, socialism would be better. Some still have kingdoms, but it's not pretty. Some have a king, but they have the parliament, and the king has no say in politics. Government of both the biological body, the soul, and the spirit is vital. And from that position, it's how you rule people, your families, your business, nations, resources. So, understanding the power of a word, its place in your life, how it comes to you, what its source is, what these words do for you, what they are purposed to do in your life, how are they stored, where and why. Some great questions to start asking. Begin learning. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Kingdom and Kingdom series. Pastor Deborah here. And this is just all to give you some things to think about, research on your own, question, ponder, talk to people about, talk to people who have a lot of knowledge, ask a lot of questions, look at your own life, do a self-assessment, and ask a lot of questions. I hope you'll come back to another episode. Not sure what it's going to be, but I am getting ready to go off today. I have my homeless luncheon to do, and then I think I have to go to Walmart. Oh, gotta do shopping. But this is, how is a word created? Till you understand that and the value of words in your life, you can't understand why you feel the way you do, when you go to therapy, why they're talking the way they do, how the words form concepts and precepts, philosophies and ideas, and how words come through books to teach us and train us and be our tutors, and how we live by words of ancient dead people. And yet we don't really know what is truth. Maybe we don't want to know the truth. Because sometimes we like living in ignorance. And because knowing truth, you might feel like Neo. And some people know the truth, but they prefer ignorance because they're happier. They don't have to change. They can make excuses. They don't have to look at themselves and how words affect them. Enjoy this teaching? Come again. Pastor Deborah, Agape Love, Love is Here, www.agapeloveishere.org. You can find us on Twitter, the YouTube channel called The Hidden Kingdoms, the website, also on LinkedIn. My email is pastordeborah@agapeloveishere.org. Enjoy your day. Be blessed. And think and ponder. Love always. Come back again. Bye-bye.